Hi guys, Craig Sutherland here with American Bass, and I am in the Daiwa showroom in Cypress, California, and we just returned from a trip to Lake Picachos, and we're here to talk about some of the exciting Daiwa products that we use down in Mexico. So I'm here with Kurt Arakawa, and we're going to go through rods and reels and all kinds of cool things. So what we're going to do is go through the products that we use down there, tell you why we used them. Kurt is the expert on all these products.
Yeah, great.
So, should we get busy?
Let's do it.
All right, we did a bunch of different types of bait fishing down there.
Okay.
We threw plastic, spinner baits, topwater, crankbaits. We had two key rods that we used when we were fishing the heavy wood. This place is a flooded jungle. And so our two heavy rods that Kurt recommended that we take, this is one of them that you see right here. This is a heavy, like flip and pitch and stick type of action. It was phenomenal. This thing put the bait right where you wanted it. And so tell us why this is one of the rods that you recommended.
Sure, this is the Tatula 721 medium heavy RB. This is a good all-around rod for, it's a little stiff for jigs. It's also good for, you can even flip with it. And there's many actions you can do with it, many different types of fishing. But our rods are, there's a lot of different actions we make now, technique specific. Some will be dual purpose or multi-purpose, you can use for a bunch of different things. But this rod is really good for what you mentioned. You can use it for jigs and all sorts of things. When you're in heavy cover, we have braid. You have braid on here, I see, so you can really pull out fish with this type of a rod. The Tatula line, again, it's a $150 rod basically. We're trying to make price point products, but it's quality oriented. So the pros even use this. A lot of our Brett Ayler's, one of his favorite series is the Tatula series, for example. This has got HVF fiber, high volume, less resin. So it's very lightweight, very sensitive. It's got the EVA foam grips on it, split grip. It's got the Fuji Alkanite guides, X45, which is a cross-wrapping of the fibers, so there's less twisting of the blank. It's got unsanded blank. So you have less chance of sanding and making weak spots in the rod. So these rods are very popular series for us. I think you enjoyed fishing with them out there and found out how nice the actions were for what you were doing.
We actually have a second one here that was the other heavy one. Sorry, let me see which one we got here. I think it's this one right here. This was the other rod that we were using.
Okay. And
we were using it the same way. Now, we were throwing lizards, we were throwing jigs, and, well, those are the yum dingers. Those are the baits that we were pitching most of the time. So a variety of weight. So in some cases, we were throwing a heavy jig. We needed that bait down fast. And then we were throwing, fly lining a yum dinger, and we were throwing them even on these rods. So these rods cast also.
Yes.
So, you know, typically you think of something being a heavy action that there's not any tip or anything, yet these were still putting the bait right up against the structure, because a lot of the fish were holding right at the base of the wood. So you had to be able to pitch it up there, have that sink straight down. And these rods were doing it. It was nice.
This particular rod you were using, Craig, is a 761 HFB, and our rods are denoted, the 7 means 7 foot 6 inch, and then we have an H for this one. It's a heavy action. The other one could have been was a medium heavy. We also have medium, so we have different actions based on what you're going to use these rods for. And this one's a heavy rod, so it's a little heavier than the 721 MHRB you were using. A lot of guys like to use this for flipping and pitching, kind of like what you said. In heavy cover, they want to pull stuff out of weed beds and that kind of thing. You need a fairly stiff rod, but as you mentioned, it's got it's still got some tip action to it, so you can still cast it. It's got some castability, but this is the perfect rod for just heavy fishing.
Yeah, we threw everything up to 1 ounce bullets on the lizards to get it down. We were fishing some channels. So a rod like this is a must for down in Mexico. When you go down, we fished a lot of the lakes down there. You've got to have more backbone, and these things produced. I mean, they moved the fish. When you hit them, you got them moving. So great, great rod.
Great, yeah, and like you said, when you got heavy cover, you want to pull this fish out of the heavy cover, you're going to need a rod with heavy backbone.
Yep. Okay, so we gave you some great information on the heavy rods. Now these two rods were just a little step down. We caught a lot of crankbait fish. We caught them everything from these 10XDs, these little babies right here.
That's a big one.
And we were able to crank with these. This was the main bait, the fat-free shad, right there, citrus shad color, produced a ton of fish. Jason got his nickname of Senior Crankbait down there. That's what the guide called him every day. Down to the small ones, because we did do a little bit of shallow fishing. There were some fish up on the banks and there were some shallow flats. So we fished some of those. And then another one that was pretty cool was the Boo Rig from Booyah. So you have a little teaser, show that right there, a little teaser, and we put a swim bait behind it. One of the beauties of these rods is we'd put a snap on the end of the line and we could just change it for whatever bait. Everything from that huge 10XD all the way down to those little baits. And we'll talk about the reels in just a minute, how phenomenal the reels were on casting. You know, we don't get out there and get to fish as much as we'd like to, but you're out there like a pro because you're not backlashing, you're throwing. So we'll talk, you can tell us in a minute about the reels.
Sure.
But these rods that we used these for the spinner baits, topwater, crankbaits, and they were great. They cast great. They had enough backbone to land every fish. We didn't lose fish. You didn't have that sloppiness that sometimes happens in a rod. So how did you guys design these actions? How did you get these actions so perfect?
It's a great question, Craig. One of the things we're more involved with now is taking the pros that we have and having them help us develop the right actions. When I came on board, I told these guys, the engineers, we really need to make sure our pros are involved in designing these rods. Guys like Ish Monroe, he fishes 3 circuits. He fishes the Major League Fishing, the Bassmaster Elite, and the FLW Tour. I mean, I don't know anyone that fishes more than this guy. And when I need something developed right away, I give it to him and say, when you're out there fishing, pre-fishing or whatever, check this out, let me know what we need to do. And he has this thing back within a week and has all his little notes on, change this, stiffer tip, whatever it needs to be, and we listen to him because obviously this guy's out there fishing for a living and they're doing a great job of it. So this particular rod, this is the 701 MLB, for example. This actually was developed by Randy Howell. This is the rod he actually used in the Bassmaster Classic and ended up winning 2014 with this rod. It's a little bit different than the rest of the rods. It doesn't have the split grip because Randy wanted a solid grip to get 2 hands on it, help him cast a little bit better. But it's a lighter weight rod for lighter weight crankbaits, a smaller size that you had. It's got a little more flexible tip because of that reason. I also like to use this rod for spinner baits. It's a very good spinner bait rod, but good all around. You can even use it for jerk baits. So again, these rods actions are all developed by our pros, and we've actually went through our lineup and redeveloped a lot of the rods that we had based on their suggestions, and continuing to go forward with our Zillion and our Steez line. They're very actively involved now with changing the actions and making sure they're right. The rod you have, Craig, is the 721 medium heavy. This is a great rod, as you mentioned, for the bigger crankbaits. A little more backbone. I know Ayler likes this rod as one of his favorite rods. Ish is using this rod, and Randy for the heavier bait. So again, a little stiffer backbone to it for the bigger baits. But a lot of people use it for a lot of different things. So it's not just one thing, but those kind of are the main purposes that these rods are designed for.
I talked to Brent Ayler about this. He fishes, these are $150 rods. They're great quality rods, but he can afford to fish a more expensive rod. They love these rods, and You know, so guys that are out there looking for one to try, and if they haven't tried the Daiwa name before, or it's been a while, man, what a great rod to start with. And these guys are fishing these in the elites. I mean,
Yes.
you know, this was the rods of choice. So that's really cool when you see that kind of endorsement, and that it's being fished at that level. But great priced rod, $150. How are you guys able to get such a quality rod for that?
Well, we've, you know, through our engineering process, we've gotten more efficient in making products. So we're now trying to make products for every level of fishing, from the beginning level all the way up to the very advanced, realizing that not everyone can afford a $500 or $600 rod.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take some components out. Maybe the rod won't be as sensitive, but it will have a great, you know, action. And some of the grips may be different, or the guides won't be as nice on some of the lower end rods. But again, the actions are one of the most important things that were designed by the pros, and it's going to be the right action for the type of bait you're using. That's, we feel, is the most important thing. And then at a price consumers can afford based on their, you know, income level.
But you know, it's kind of funny. I mean, I've been in this for decades, and what we consider sometimes as not as good of guide as another one is 10 times better than we ever used to have.
That's right.
So, you know, when you have somebody fishing at the absolute highest level, most guys agree that the Elite Series is considered the pinnacle, and they're out throwing $150 rods. That's because they believe in the product and it's delivering what they need. So congratulations on such a great product and bringing it in at a price that everybody can afford. So another set of rods, you're going to go out, fish heavy cover, medium cover, you're going down to Mexico. These are the kind of products that you need in the actions that you need. And one other thing that we want to bring up are the reels. So I'm going to let Kurt tell us about these reels, but I'm telling you, we were throwing these things. We had windy afternoons, we had calm mornings, it didn't matter. They performed. We had a great topwater bite at the end of one of the days, and we're throwing like little Splashets and Rico's pop R type baits. And we're heaving these things right into the wind with these same rods and not backlashing and getting great distance. And there's a really cool feature on these that helps with that,
Yes.
that Kurt's going to tell us about. But he'll tell us about these Tatula reels. These are great reels that also at a great price point. So we're going to switch over here to Kurt and have him tell us about these reels.
This is our Tatula series line of bait casting reels. And one of the main features of this reel starts with the frame. When we built this reel, it's got an aluminum frame and aluminum side plate on the gear side. So what that does, it makes it very lightweight, but very strong and durable. And when you have aluminum on the side, the gear side, the side plate, this keeps the gears lined up properly, so you don't get a lot of twisting or torque in heavy cover situations where you're cranking fish out. You're cranking fish out of heavy cover, and there's a lot of stress on the reel. If you didn't have this made out of aluminum, it would start to flex. And when it starts to flex, and then you start grinding, that's when you start grinding the gears because it's not lined up properly. So that's a very important feature that is based on this framework, aluminum frame and side plate. So it's very lightweight, but very durable. It also has the T-wing system, which is another great feature. I don't know if you can see it very well, but as we release the release mechanism, there is a T-wing shaped line guide. Now this T-wing, it's bigger, as you can see, will allow the line to come off the spool a lot easier. You're going to get more distance with this system. We've had it out now for a couple years, and people really like it. They can tell they're getting more distance. So that's one thing. And when you click it into gear, it goes back to a normal level line. But any angle, because it's opening so big, when the line comes out, there's less angles to create friction. So less friction means more distance. The other thing we have is our MagForce system. We include the MagForce system in all of our reels. It's a very easy way to adjust your settings for cast control. There's two adjustments that everyone should know about. One is the cast control. This adjustment here helps keep the spool from going back and forth. You tighten it up a little bit, and then from there everything is done on the outside of the reel through this adjustment, which goes up to 20. So there's 20 adjustments. You just click it in. It's very simple to do. Once you get it dialed in, you don't usually have to mess with it again. But that's our MagForce system. It's also got a 90mm handle, so it's a bigger handle for more torque. It's got eye-shaped paddles on it, so they're easier to grip. This happens to be a 7:3 gear ratio. We make it in a 6:3 gear ratio, and many different retrieve ratio, 5:1. So it's around $150. It's very affordable. It's what most of the guys that are serious about their tournament fishing would purchase. We go up from there, and we also go down from there. So we have many options for you to choose from. Please check one of these out at one of your dealers nearest you. Hi, Kurt Arcott with Daiwa here. I'm here to tell you about our Tatula Type R series bait casting reel. We have the Tatula series, which is this reel here. This is the starting series. This reel sells for $150. Then a step up from the Tatula series is the Type R series. It's basically the same. It has the basic aluminum frame and side plate that makes the lure very lightweight but very durable. The other thing that's different, it has a red, as you can tell, anodized spool and cast control knob. The spool is made out of A70/75 aircraft aluminum. So it's stronger, it's more durable, a little lighter weight, which allows, the lightweightness helps you cast a little further, along with the T-wing system, which is a bigger opening when the line comes out. The bigger opening allows less friction, which allows for more distance. Most guys will notice right away the distance, and it's also easier to flip and pitch things because of the wider opening. It has that. It has it's got 7 ball bearings with 1 roller bearing. Another difference between the Type R, it's got 2, we call them CRBB, which are corrosive resistant bearings. We place those bearings on both sides of the spool, which allows them to last longer. They're kind of enclosed with grease, so there's less chance of water getting into the bearings and corroding them, but aids in more casting. So those are the main differences. It's also got a Zion tension knob right here, star drag, but it's got the same features. The handle's the same, 90mm with the eye grip paddle, and it's got the, again, aluminum frame and side plate, and it's got the MagForce system, which again, you can dial it very easily from the outside and adjust it to any lure. So be sure to try one of these out. I know you're going to love them.
Okay guys, one more thing that we want to talk about on the fishing of the Daiwa products is that Daiwa has a great fishing line. Now what we use down in Mexico, again Lake Picachos, is we use the Samurai braid. We used it for everything we did. We did it for topwater, plastics, crankbaits, you name it, and it worked fantastic. You know, you hear some people saying about the lack of stretch or casting, all that. We had 0 problems with this line. It performed flawless. We threw everything from little plastics, little topwaters, to heavy crankbaits, and it was great. That was a Samurai braid, right?
Yep.
But now Daiwa has a new line out. So what's the differences between the Samurai braid and the J braid?
Okay, good question, Craig. The Samurai braid is considered our top-of-the-line braid. It's an 8-strand carrier braid. These are both made in Japan. The big difference is the Samurai braid is a little thinner diameter. So if you are throwing finesse on spinning reels line, sometimes guys want to have the thinnest line possible. And they'll usually still top shot it with the fluorocarbon leader, but they just want it to be real thin. So if you want that and it's a little more expensive, then you get the Samurai. It's still the top of the line. It's super popular now. A lot of guys bass fishing love it. But we've come out with this year this J-braid line, made in Japan as well. It's the 8-strand carrier, just like the Samurai. It's a little thicker. So it's not much thicker, but it's a little thicker. But the best thing is we've lowered the price on it to make it more accessible to more fishermen. 150-yard spool is only $14.95.
Wow.
Yeah, except for I think the 80 yards is maybe $19.95. But it's very affordable. We have it in this is a 330 yard. We have a 150, 330, and even a 1650 spool. So there's in the Samurai, we also make a Saltigan multicolor in 330, and this one's a 1600 size in 120 pounds. So for saltwater guys, they use this. And in the J-braid, we make the same 150, 330, and 1650 as Craig's got in his hand, the bigger spools. But we also make 3 different colors. We make dark green. For a lot of bass guys like to use that to keep it more camouflaged. And some guys actually throw jigs on straight braid where they use this. We make a chartreuse color, which is really high visibility. A lot of the bass guys will use this with the fluorocarbon leader, as I mentioned. So this will allow them to detect bites better in tough bite situations. So some guys have both, and when it's a tough bite, they put on this chartreuse, and multicolor too for, again, saltwater guys. So 3 colors available in the J-braid, 2 in the Samurai, and you got to try, you're going to love it.
Now, one thing I'm reading here, you're doing truth in advertising, saying the diameter, right? I have 70-pound Samurai right here. I have 65-pound of the J-braid. It's 0.01 millimeters larger in diameter. 0.01 millimeters. So this stuff's a great value.
It is.
This J-braid, that when you say it's a larger diameter, but it's not very much larger.
No, it's not. And
it's 8 strand.
It's still 8 strand, yeah. And
wow.
They're both made in Japan, so they're very quality oriented. Many people have asked us, how are we doing that? So
that's a secret, right?
We are trying to, well, it's really being more efficient in distribution. We're distributing this globally now. So we're trying to do it on volume, but we want, the fishermen to have the benefit. So we want them to, and more people are using braid nowadays.
Yeah.
I see more and more guys going to braid with the fluorocarbon leaders, and it's becoming more popular. So
and at $14 or $15 a spool, that's affordable now.
Yes.
That makes it something that, and if you haven't tried it, maybe the price has been scaring you off. This is an opportunity. Get yourself a spool of J-braid and try it. It's fantastic line.
Right, and I think guys like braided line now because they can put it on their reel and use it a lot more. They might change the leader or it breaks off, but the braid will stay on a lot longer. They get more uses out of it.
Well, for old guys like me, when you heard braid back in the day, that meant that you were rock cod fishing or doing something where it was rope that had horrible characteristics other than being strong. This is far from that. This is just wonderful line to fish. So if you haven't tried it yet, here's one to jump in on. Look for J-braid. Try it.